Welcome to Ask. Please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. If you haven't already, it really helps. Thanks.
I view the Democratic Party as GOP collaborators just because I feel like they're sort of a party of moderates. You know, the past election, we especially saw with Biden being the most conservative liberal or Kamala being like a moderate. We're searching for people to conform to the GOP's standards while, you know, also trying to pick away people at the left.
Well, obviously they tried to project a image of being GOP resistors, but functionally they became GOP collaborators, certainly. I don't think it was intentional. I think it was mostly just due to incompetence.
I think by the nature of how our government works and specifically how, you know, bipartisan the Democrats try to be, that they're inherently collaborative with them. I mean, they're constantly, you know, talking about how reaching across the aisle is so virtuous. I mean, that's literally collaborative. You know, whether or not you want to suggest that that's a bad thing comes down to your own political leanings. Obviously, I don't think it's good. I think, you know, the Conservative Party collaborating with them tends to just make us take one step forward and three steps back. So, yeah, in a sense, I agree.
I do believe that the Democratic Party is corrupt because I think their role in the system is to lower the bar. Republicans lower the bar. The Democrats will keep it there so that the Republicans can lower the bar again. It's not a progressive system.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to get money out of campaign finance. I think that we all know that that's critical. We all really, really want that. There's no reason why that isn't an imperative change to be made as soon as possible. And that alone, I think, is enough grounds to say that the party's corrupt.
I believe that all of our politics right now is corrupt just from how campaign finance laws works and lobbying. It's hard to find any politician that hasn't taken large sums of money from some private individual with their own political motivations and aspirations or groups. And none of them are particularly most of them are just private entities looking, you know, for their own private interests. I honestly think too that it's uncontroversial. Like most people, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum, believe that the political system is fundamentally corrupt. It's just why and who, those are the kinds of things we actually argue about.
I think the Democratic Party is inherently corrupt and can't really do much to change itself. I do think the two-party system should be abolished.
Well, I think it needs to stand for something compelling. What I've seen is just a lack of interest in the Democratic Party. It just has ended up sort of just being disregarded as not no longer relevant. So I'd like to see the Democratic Party not be so medium on everything, like actually try to stand for some issues and have a little bit of a personality.
The Democratic Party needs to, first off, just in terms of, I wouldn't even say that they necessarily preach a progressive message very much. They preach a centrist / slightly right-leaning message, in my opinion. And so I would say that their messaging needs to be genuinely more progressive, needs to be more in favor of working people and protecting their rights and making sure that the actual citizens of the country are having their needs met and that they're happy. And I think not only should they talk about it, but they should actually do it. And a big part of that is gonna whether or not they're going to follow through is going to be reflected in what kind of corporate donations, what kind of money it is that they're taking to fund their campaigns, which I think keeps real progressive people, or people who are further on the left like myself, we're just going to be chronically skeptical that they actually have any of our interests in mind when they're funded by private organizations.
I do think that the Democratic Party is failing the working class because of its stance in moderation and trying to appeal to both sides of the political spectrum in the U.S. We end up with nothing really progressive, and we'll also see them using policies to try to rope in voters to force them into conformity, like not codifying Roe v. Wade into law during Biden's presidency and whatnot.
Well, clearly through, if we look at, the voter turnout, Republicans have done a much better job of grabbing working class, and Democratic initiatives of, I think, social engineering projects to try to win working class voters have been just kind of rung hollow, I think, for voters. And so, yeah, absolutely.
The Democratic Party is absolutely failing the working class, as our whole government is as well. I mean, I don't even think you have to get particularly in the weeds of the details to engage with that question, because pretty much everybody that I know, with scant few exceptions, is feeling absolutely crushed under the economic realities of our current situation. Everybody I know feels like they're being woefully underpaid, they're being greatly overworked, and it's so hard for me to find anybody who feels genuinely happy with the state of their working lives and like it's even remotely fair these days, myself included. We're trying to find our peace and our happiness in everything outside of work, but the actual part of our lives that makes us the working class is the thing that we're coping with. It's not anything that we accept or feel comfortable with. We're all just barely hanging on.
I do think the Democratic Party needs the most radical change in abolishment, because I don't believe in the two-party system.
Oh yeah, I don't know if anyone would say that it doesn't. Honestly, it has failed pretty horrifically recently, and it seems like it will likely continue to. I'd like to see it go more the way of a lot of what Bernie Sanders says. I think, calling out the role of corporations in influencing politics today is a critical thing to do if we actually want to build a better future and a more democratic future. I don't know. I would hate to see the Democratic Party sort of radicalize to match the tenor of the Republican Party. But I don't know how else it can remain viable in the current political situation.
I think the Democratic Party needs radical change, and to be honest, I could even see it being threatened in the future by potentially, third parties, just different movements and groups. I think ultimately the Democratic Party is fundamentally capitalist in its priorities, and by being fundamentally capitalist, it is only interested in negotiating with the working class to the smallest acceptable amount that would placate people, and they're much more concerned again about pleasing their donors. It's hard for me to imagine them changing their tune, especially because so much of our political electorate has been at the game for a very long time. It's very old, and has been taking this money and been aligned with the agenda of these private interests for a very long time. I think if it doesn't radically change, there's going to be a new group that's going to replace them as the actual party of the working class.
Thank you for watching. Feel free to comment and share to help be part of a larger conversation. See you again soon. Bye.